If you're a health professional who wants to take your expertise that you've been doing with your clients and you want to move it online and you're curious about how you can make sales every single day on Instagram, this episode's for you. Let's dive in. What's up, coach? Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the PT Profit Podcast. I'm your host, Beverley Simpson. And if this is the first time that you're hanging out with me today, welcome. Thank you. I'm super pumped that you're here. In this episode, if you're tuning in through audio, definitely check out the YouTube version because I'm going to be sharing my screen and I'm going to be walking you through some of the ways that I put together an Instagram strategy that allows me to make sales every single day, even if I didn't have any budget for ads. But I'll also walk you through how I use ads and how I measure performance statistically with ads as well. So before we dive in, a couple things. In this video, the best content strategy, that was where I really dived really deep into how you define your niche and where we started talking about how you find your messaging and content through the positioning of your offers and making sure that you know what your offers is. So if you haven't checked that video out, then definitely do that because that one's going to help you define what your offers are and then find the messaging for your content. And then in this video, I'm going to show us how we pull all of that together and really come up with a strategic plan so that you make sales every single day with Instagram. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. We'll definitely link that up here. And if you're listening on audio, we'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you have any questions, you can check that video out first. So this training already assumes you know exactly what it is that you're going to sell. And if you're curious about what we do inside of our containers is we have your premium offer. So this is for your clients, for your premium high touch 101 clients. And then you have your low ticket offers. So your accessible options are your low ticket offers. This way you can get paid to acquire leads. And that makes a case for your next for a call. And then what we like to help our clients do is build low ticket leads that makes a strong case for your premium offers. That way you get paid to acquire leads. You get more comfortable selling because you know you have this accessible option. And the first thing we need to do is really shift your perspective around how you view and how you look at selling. Because a lot of people who come to me feel like they don't want to be pushy and they don't want to be pressureful and they don't want to sound like noise, like they're just constantly promoting all day, every day. And the reason why we have those experiences or fears is because we have evidence that people sell like that. No one wants to sound like the person that is standing on the corner with that sign, like buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And then it just sounds like noise and people don't listen or pay attention. We also have experiences of people lying to us, promise us one thing and then don't deliver. We also have evidence of people who lack empathy, so they make you feel bad about yourselves. We have people who sell at inopportune times so that they slide into your DMs. We have people who won't take no for an answer. And then we have people who don't listen. And so because we have that experience around selling, we don't want to be like that. And it can be scary. Now, on the flip side of that, so listen, I get that. So here's what happens to a lot of people is people will start to feel like, oh, I want to apologize for being sleazy. I want to apologize. I'm going to give back all my best value back. Let me just accidentally sell here. And they end up sounding almost like an apologetic seller. I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, I typically don't want to buy from someone who doesn't feel certain around their products. I don't want them to feel like, I don't go into the grocery store and buy something that looks sus. And the reason why it looks sus is because someone's standing there being like, I'm so sorry, please don't buy this. But, I promise I'm going to get back to it. Sometimes it will read like you are lacking confidence. And in order for someone to say yes, they need to borrow your conviction because they're feeling nervous and feeling apprehensive. Is this going to work? Is this going to work for me? Can I do this? And they need to borrow your feeling of certainty because when you're so certain that you can help them, then they will say yes to themselves. Then they will dive in. So that type of certainty and conviction has to come from you feeling good about communicating the value that you bring to the market space. Number one, you have to understand and see that selling is a service because when all you're doing is inviting someone else to say yes to themselves. So that you have to work on that. So then number two, we're going to take a look at the promotional calendar, and we're going to build a promotional calendar all around the goals that you are setting. Okay, so one of the things that I help my formula and accelerator clients do is the first step is getting really clear on what is your goal. So I carry my people through a 3-step goal or intention setting workshop where we clear out all of the evidence of the past and we really get super clear on what it is that we want. And then step 3, we set up the strategic plan that comes from knowing what it is that you want and clearing out all that past evidence. Okay, so what happens is when we get really clear on the intention of what it is that we're bringing in, then we are going to set targets. Now, the targets that are set come from the performance metrics. So then once we know what those performance metrics are, we also set our targets, then we can start getting clear on the binary action that we can take in order to reach the targets. So what ends up happening is it's very important that you understand the difference between the things that you can control and the things that you can't control. You cannot control when someone is going to say yes to you. You can't control what's going to happen when you post content and the algorithms are going to do XYZ. It's just those are the things that are outside of your control. But what is within your control is the actions that you can take, the commitment that you make to yourself to execute the inspired action in order to reach those targets. And then you're going to get results. So regardless whether the results are you got 0 people or you got 10 people, you're going to get results. And then the results will be a reflection of the performance metric. And then that metric is going to show you or tell you what needs to get better. What is the lever that we are going to pull in order to improve metrics so we can reach the targets and then hit the goal? What happens to so many people when they don't do this is they end up trying to fix the things that aren't broken. Oh man, well nobody wants to hear my premium offer, so I'm just not gonna do that. Well, how many? I'm just gonna throw the premium offer out. Nobody wants my low ticket offer, so I'm just not gonna do that. But you didn't necessarily reach the target or reach the volume of people that need to see it. So a lot of times when you don't understand what your performance metrics are, people will accidentally throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, so step 3, now that we know what the goal is, step 4, let's put together the promotional calendar that is based on the goal. And so let's just use a real life example. We're going to use mine. This is my goals for August. So we are looking to bring in 27 formula clients. Okay, so this is going to mean that we would like to have 800 leads. And so when I say 800 leads, I'm talking about buys. I would like to have 800 buyers. So for us, I want to have 400 buyers, and sometimes I'll write 800 leads. So I think about 800. So 800 people in my DMs, 800 people hit that 800 people opt in to something, come into my world through some way. So I'm looking for about 800 leads, whether they're going to come in through some of my free content stuff, they come in through my DMs. But what I'm really tracking is the 400 low ticket buyers. Of those, if we generate 400 buyers within the month, we will yield about 27 clients and 96 calls because our sales mechanism is calls. Okay. So me knowing that those are what my targets are based on performance metrics, then we start every action that we're taking is working towards bringing in 400 buyers. So now when we're putting together our content strategy, the way that I like to think about it is you have 4 main questions that your content needs to answer for your prospective client. Why should I listen to you? So this is your authority and expertise statement. Will this work? Will this work for me? And do I need this now? And so in order to move them through that customer journey, there are 3 core strategies that we move people through. So the first is belief shifting content. We need to meet them where they're at in terms of the mistakes that they're making without them realizing it because of misconceptions. Mistakes and misconceptions, we need to shift their perspective. We also need to give them results in advance, give them how-tos, deepen the sense of trust in your process. Then we give them case studies that back up the claim. So it's 3 core pieces of content. And then the types of content are polarizing, how-tos, educational pieces, like how-tos and value adds, which are like step 1, do this, step 2, do this. And then 3 is the nutritional, your teaching pieces, like value adds, the nutritional differences between a sweet potato and a white potato. And then you're going to have your connection pieces. So this is your relatability and aspirational. These are your stories, your story sellings. These are your case studies. And then you're going to have motivational, inspiring types of content. So those are the types of content that go into the 3 core buckets in order to move people through that customer journey. And so for me and for my clients, when we're building a macro and micro cycle of content, which you can see if you're tuning in here down if you're watching the video, you can see here I have the complete content schedule for 2025. I also have the promotional plan for 2026 lined up and ready to go. And then I break up the macro cycle of content depending on, so what is a macro? A macro is the big, giant, long form piece of content, because a lot of people underestimate how much content it actually takes to move people through those four questions and move them through that ladder of believability of I believe in you, I believe in your offer, I believe in myself that I can do it, and I believe that I need it now. And so this is your long form. So for me, it's the YouTube. For me, it's the podcast. This is where you can go deep. This is where I could go long. This is where I can expand. And then in my micro cycle of content, this is my short form. This is where I get to reach wide. This is where I get to test messaging. This is where I get to drive people to the long form, to consume the long form. And the way that I do that is based on the promotional calendar that I'm creating. So I make sales every single day because I'm always moving people to the DMs or always moving people to go hit the sales page with ads too. So I'm either using ads to drive traffic, or I'm using my organic content to drive traffic and to have conversation in the DMs. Then I move them in the DMs to making a buying decision. And this is also because I know innately that if you say yes to yourself, you are going to get a ton of value. So the big macro cycle usually goes interrupt. So that's my belief shifting, where I'm disrupting the way people are thinking. Then we go to inspire. This is where I'm going to deepen that sense of results in advance, education, case study. This is where I'm going to use those types of pieces of content to demonstrate and show my expertise. And then when we go into invite week, this is where I'm going to be giving case studies and inviting people into taking that next step. So an invite week, think about this as like selling without selling. So it can be offer forward, where it's like, hey, I've got 5 spots. Do you want it? If this is for you, grab this free call and we'll talk about it, where I'm going to like, oh my gosh, I love this shirt. If you're like me and you want to do this, then you're going to love this. So an invite week is where you're making a case for the next step, but you're not making a buying decision. An implement week is when it's buy now, this is promotion, time's running out, and you are inviting people to make a buying decision. So when you think about growth, you want to think of it as visibility, value, whereas you're shifting perspective, demonstrating, giving results in advance, and then inviting people to say yes to themselves, clear path to yes. Those are the value components. And then the volume is the sheer amount of people that need to see it, and then the number of touch points before making a buying decision. So that is the equation. And then we have these big pieces of content. So that is the equation. And so I make my long form, my macro cycle, go through and interrupt and inspire and invite and implement. And then my micro cycle of content, it moves them. Why? I go through the same thing. People will ask, do I do all interrupt micro cycle for 1 week? You can. It works like an accordion. For me, I like to try to post 3 times a day. So guess what? I do an interrupt, I do an inspire, and I do an invite every single day, every day. And then if I only do 1 or do 2, so really you need to think about what is it that you want to commit to. Because if we're speaking about Instagram, your commitment matters. So your commitment to consistency gets to be determined by you. So if you're going to do one a day, great. Then I'd be like, inspire, implement, or I would do interrupt, inspire, and invite. 1, 2, 3. Now, every single one of those are going to have a call to action to take the next step, whether it's going to be DM me or go to a sales page. All right, so now that we understand what the promotional calendar is going to look like for you, if you're going to use the 4-step or the 4-pillar method that we use, interrupt, inspire, invite, and implement. So if we're going to look at a 30-day container, let's just write out those weeks. So in your implement week, this is when you're going to do a full drive promotion for your content. Then in your invite week, this is where you're going to be doing some passive asking. So it'll be offer forward, but it'll be like, hey, if you like this, then you'll love that. And then in interrupt and inspire, your conversion intention that we're going to do in the interrupt is going to be to drive more reach. So what that will look like is your content will be really disruptive. Your content will be demonstration, and you will still have until your main calls to action because of your conversion intention are going to be share this with a friend, tag someone who needs to see this. Your creative intention is going to be what is shareable, what do people like, what do people connect with, what are going to get people to go, whoa, you need to see this. And then you'll have PS, comment the word whatever, comment the word next, and I'll show you how for free. So that invitation to take the next step will still be there, but it's secondary. And in the Inspire week, this is where you're sharing case studies. This is where you're giving results in advance. This is where you're thinking about level 2 problem awareness. Same thing. This is where you're also be really connecting with, asking your audience questions. Let me know what you think below, 1, 2, or 3. When you're ready, and then you'll have your passive asks. PS, when you're ready, DM word, and I'll show you how for free. So then next, we start to put together the actual content strategy. And so when you have your macro cycle organized and you know what your micro cycle is to go wide, now what you need to decide is what is the consistency component that you can commit to? Because Instagram cares about consistency. So if you can post 1 time a day, great. Then what I like to do would be an interrupt, inspire, and an invite. 1, 2, 3. Day one, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And if it's going to be in the vein of your interrupt week, great. Same thing for inspire. Now, I've organized it this way because that is how I can save time. So I never am asking myself, what should I post today? So then if you're going to commit to doing 3 times a day, great. Now, in those 3 times a day, I would do an interrupt, an inspire, and an invite. And that's the cadence that I like to try and stick to. Now, that's challenging. But it always comes down to the macro cycle. If I ever get lost or if I go 3 and I decide I'm going to go down to 2, that's fine. I'm sticking to the macro cycle. Why? Because people underestimate how much content it actually takes to move someone who's never heard of you before into becoming a buyer. And so if my people don't pay attention to my 7-second reels, but they listen to my podcast or they come to my YouTube and they watch the YouTube and they want to save time and have all of this already mapped out and organized for them, it makes sense. So then what happens is now that I know this, I'll come to this is what it looks like in my macro cycle. You'll see that I have podcasts already mapped out all the way through to October 2nd. And then in my micro cycle looks exactly like this. So I know this is what it looks like. I know that whatever the date is, this is the date. And then I'm going to post 3 times. And I'm going to have one that has an intention for more leads, more reach, and more customers. And then I will decide my creative type. And then I know what my actual type is based on what phase I am in. So if I'm in the interrupt phase for my macro cycle. And this is, what it actually looks like in that micro cycle. Okay. And then here is and it comes through from the macro and it's in relationship to the macro cycle. So quick recap, when we're looking at the actual schedule, I have one promotional week where I'm literally publicly driving sales to make a buying decision for whatever the program is. For me and my offer stack, I'm probably I have my accessible options, and then I have my high ticket options. And so it depends. For August, we are going to be doing an implement week for a new program that we're rolling out for our end of summer and our Labor Day sale. So that's going to be what our implement week is. But that doesn't mean I'm not selling for the rest of August. And that requires me to that requires me to know that selling is a service. So all of the rest of our efforts are going to be in an effort to move people to driving traffic to the sales page. If you get 20 views on one sales page, that's going to yield one customer. And we have accelerator clients that legitimately, when they use this conversion content, the macro and macro cycle that we're talking about right now, they has the potential to literally get millions and millions and millions of views and drive hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of opt-ins into their world. And then they become customers, and then the customers become premium clients. And it becomes this cycle of pressure-free, permission-based, because it gets to take what it takes until it takes. This is where selling becomes easy and effortless, because all you're doing is showing up and communicating what it is that you love to do. The best part is that this process works, and you don't really need millions and millions of views. You just need 20 people to hit your sales page. You just need 20 people to come into your DMs and have a conversation with you if you don't even have a sales page. And then the effort will compound, and it'll get easier and easier and easier. If you're curious how this process could work for you, then schedule a free profit plan. And me or someone from my team will walk you through how specifically this process could work for your business. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'll catch you on the next.